So Dell's up to their old tricks again with the XPS 159570. It's been on the market for a couple weeks now, and we finally got our hands on one. This is the Core i5 version. I'll tell you why this is really the only one you should consider when buying this device. And despite the lack of significant changes, it's still a killer laptop to have. Stay tuned. All right, so for 2018, Dell hasn't really changed the XPS 15, and I'm a little upset about this. We went through this with the XPS 13 until that was revised, thankfully, this year. But this is still the same old chassis from last year. Not entirely, though. The silver here is a little bit nicer. It's a little bit lighter, and they also changed that logo up a bit, but you get the point. Taking a look at the exterior here, we can see we have a lighter silver, less gray version chassis than last year. It's very subtle, but trust me, it's definitely there. I actually like this. I think it looks a lot better, lighter. We also have the Dell logo, which is now a mirror finish. It used to be black. I like the mirror finish. Now when it comes to ports and I/O, well, the XPS 15 has always excelled, and that hasn't changed at all this year. This is the exact same setup as we had before. We still have a barrel plug adapter, which is 130 watts. That's really interesting because on the XPS 15 2-in-1 and 9575, it does ship with a Type-C 130 watt charger. But for some reason, they kept the barrel one here. I think they just didn't want to redesign it. I'll explain this a little bit more in a second. You also have your USB port here, full HDMI. There is your Type-C port. So this is now full Thunderbolt 3 with 4 PCIe lanes. That's a big change, actually. So yeah, you can use this with an external GPU, pretty solid, and a headphone jack. As to why they kept the barrel charger, well, there's actually kind of a good reason here. It's like a lazy reason, really. They have a single Type-C port, and if you use that for charging, well, you wouldn't have any more Type-C ports. So you can use the barrel charger and use the Type-C for data, peripherals, and external display, whatever you want. Now, the real solution here, as you probably imagine, would be just including 2 Type-C ports, and that's what they didn't change. On the right-hand side, we do have our Kensington lock, and I still appreciate Dell's little battery meter here. You press the button, it lights up, gives you a quick visual indicator, how much juice you have left. You have another USB Type-A port, and finally we have the SD card slot. Getting rare these days on laptops, and still what sets the XPS 15 apart from a lot of other 15-inch devices out there. Now looking at the bottom, we do have our speakers, which sit towards the front. Pretty good audio. I haven't had any issues with them. Dell speakers have always been hit or miss. I've even had problems with their speakers in the past with one blowing out, but I still wish they would move these to the top, but that would imply that they do a redesign, and they haven't done that yet, so nothing moves. Looking here at the full grill at the bottom here for the intake, there are 2 fans below there. Now, they haven't really changed the thermal solution on this device, but the fans have been updated and improved. They are pretty quiet. I'll talk a little bit about that more later, though. I probably should mention there are 12 screws on the bottom, including 2 underneath the cover here. These aren't actually the original screws. I've replaced these. They're normally silver, and they blend in with the chassis a lot better. I'll explain more about that, though, later. The display, the hallmark feature of the XPS 15, or at least one of them, this is a 4K panel. There is a full HD version. It's a little bit harder to find, but this screen actually has changed this year. Let's go through those changes. First of all, the bezels, well, they're kind of basically the same, a little bit thinner maybe, but this panel has been updated. So it's still a sharp IGZO display, but this is a next generation model. That means the brightness now goes past 400 nits. I actually measured 420. It's a very, very bright panel. I really love it. It also now has an anti-glare coating on it, which I'm so happy about that. I've always liked the 4K panel on the Dell XPS 15, but with that glare, it was always a big trade-off. As you notice now, you're not really seeing the lights reflect on it. It's a really good combination. It's still technically a glossy panel. It's not matte. It just has the anti-glare on it. It's a really good solution. In terms of color accuracy and performance, well, you're gonna get 100% sRGB color accuracy on this with 97% Adobe. So this is a very good panel. And it's also touchscreen. We should also mention there is the web camera. Now they did move it from the side to the center here, but it is still below the screen. Still gonna be kind of a terrible experience. It's actually a pretty good camera. It's just the angle is not very flattering. There's also no Windows Hello facial recognition for that camera, which is a little weird. The 9575 2-in-1 does have a really nice Windows Hello system there. I think to keep this panel thin, they didn't add it to this device. So though we don't get IR camera here for facial recognition, we do get a fingerprint reader built into the power button, and it works very well. It's very fast. I really don't have any complaints about it. I do have to push that power button a little bit harder than I would like, but overall it's a really good experience. Turning to the keyboard, not much has changed, although they did tweak it up a little bit and it feels nicer to me than last year's model, specifically the spacebar I'm having less issues with. Now this doesn't use the new maglev system found in the 2-in-1, which I actually really liked. It had very shallow travel, but it was very clicky too. This one is still the more traditional travel one, and it's a good keyboard. Really don't have any complaints about it. Looking at the trackpad, nothing has changed this year. It's still large, it's still glass, uses precision drivers, really smooth, good clicking too. Make sure though those screws are tight at the bottom. If they do loosen up, it will make the trackpad loose too, so make sure that isn't an issue. All right, let's talk about CPUs, performance, and what you get with this device. So I have here the Core i5 version. It's the 8300H. It came out this year. It's a really good processor. It's 45 watts, it's quad core, and it goes up to 4 gigahertz. Now, I'm actually going to tell you, this is the device you should probably be looking at buying. The reason is, compared to last year's model with the Core i7 7700 processor, this beats it. So unless you really need much more power, I don't see why you need the Core i7. And I really don't advise getting that Core i9. It just does not have the thermal capacity to handle that processor, meaning it'll actually underperform. All that stuff you've been seeing about the MacBook Pro, well, that applies here too. This is not the kind of device that can handle the Core i9, which at this point I think is more of a gimmick. But just on raw Geekbench scores, this thing beats last year's model with the GTX 1050. Even the GTX 1050 performs a little bit better here. So this is a really solid device. You're getting last year's premium model for this year's mid-tier. And you can get that for like $1,500. And that's with the 4K display, which is one of the best on the market. You're also going to get faster RAM this year. It's 2666, so that's a big upgrade over last year's model. And the SSD is pretty good on here. We're getting around 2700 for read sequential speeds. The write speeds aren't very good. It's around 400. It's a Toshiba SSD. I don't know why that is. The XPS 15 line has always been known for upgrades, and you can still replace the SSD, you can still replace the RAM. There are 2 slots, and you can replace the Wi-Fi card. And that's all cool if it was easy to get to. Now, once you remove the bottom panel, they are easy to get to, but that bottom panel, those screws, Dell, please change your design here. This is just really not good. No other company has this problem, but you guys do. The screws are too soft, so they're going to strip very easy. Now, it's not helped by the fact that there's a thread locker on all those screws. So I had to strip out all 10 of my screws here just to get to this bottom. And then that's why I replaced them with black screws, which are just normal screws now, and it's a lot easier to replace. But this could be a stressful upgrade if you're not familiar with doing these devices. It's not the end of the world if you strip the screws, but you gotta be able to know how to fix that. Once you open it though, this is what you can do. You can go up to 32 gigs of RAM in this, which is actually what I've done. And that's really fast RAMs, DDR4 2600. The downside to this is you can't throw in any old RAM. There's actually a good Reddit thread here going through the types of RAM that are compatible with this device. You have to find a very specific one. Basically anything with a CAS latency below 17 doesn't work. And it's really kind of nuanced, so just be careful. But once you do it, it's pretty awesome. I should also mention the Core i7 and i9 model theoretically can handle 64 gigs, but there are no chips yet on the market, so we can't actually test that, but that's just something to keep in mind. Same with the SSD. This device ships with the Toshiba one. You get around 2800 megabytes per second, which is pretty good for sequential reads. The writes, though, are around 400. I was not that impressed with it. I did throw a 970 EVO in this, and the performance is much better, so that's kind of cool. Now, if you want, the Microsoft Store is selling the Core i7 version with up to 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD, so that's pretty awesome. You can also upgrade that RAM later on. Okay, let's bring this all in. The XPS 15 didn't change this year a whole lot. I'm really kind of disappointed by that. I said this last year with the XPS 13, and then they did revise it with the 9370, and that was a really nice change. I would love to see this in white and gold and have other colors besides silver. I think the exterior needs to change a little bit. I'd love to see Windows Hello facial recognition instead of a fingerprint reader. I'd like to see an improved keyboard. Maybe that maglev stuff would be kind of neat. And Dell has to really choose what they want this device to be. If they want to put a Core i9 in this, by all means, but design the device to handle a Core i9. Just don't slap it in the current one like what Apple does. Otherwise, just stick to the Core i7 or even the Core i5. I'm telling you, just getting this with the Core i5, 90% of you, I think, will be really happy. The other 10%, you guys know you need the Core i7 and what you need it for, so by all means, go get it. So besides the fact that Dell has not revised this device significantly, I really enjoy some of the internal upgrades they've done with this. Don't forget, there's no other real device like this on the market right now that does all this with this 4K display, really fast RAM, really good storage solutions, and really good processor options, plus having all those ports. I should mention this Core i5 and now 32 gigs of RAM, I'm still getting between 8 and 10 hours of battery life with that 4K touch display, which also now supports pen. That's a really good combination to have, only rivaled by the Surface Book 2, but this is a heck of a lot cheaper than that option. So if you really need a killer laptop out there that's super powerful and can, do some gaming as well, there's nothing else like the XPS 15 on the market, and I can still recommend it, especially if you can get it on sale. All right, so that's my quick review of the Dell XPS 15 9570. Now, if you want more information about this device, make sure you go to the description below. I'll have a few links for you. If you like this review, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone.